Everybody here now?
Yes.
Jamie?
That's fine. Did you want me to do a roll call?
Well, no, you gotta do the call to order, then we do the pledge. Okay, call the meeting to order.
6:34.
Stand to the pledge of allegiance. Thank you.
For the Lowell Board, Larry Rosen. Jay Respler. Karen Schoenberg. Kathy Dodano. Surjit Sandhu. Bob Brown. Tom Clark. From the Greenbriar Board, Mark Sirks.
Here.
Alan Greenberg.
Here.
Chester Trubinsky.
Here.
Wayne Baruch is absent. Jack Sandler, is he on Zoom? We don't know. He is, okay. Jack Sandler is on Zoom. And we have Jamie Cullen, Kristen Parisa, and myself, Michelle Shanahan.
We have the approval of the prior meeting minutes. Anybody like to make a motion to approve them? All right, Michelle or Jamie, call.
All right. First, Larry Rosen. Jay Respler. Karen Schoenberg. Kathy Dodano. Surjit Sandhu. Bob Brown. Tom Clark. From Greenbriar, Mark Sirks. Alan Greenberg.
Yes.
Chester Trubinsky.
Yes. Jack Sandler.
Sorry, Jack Sandler, I'm sorry. Okay, we got it.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay. Next, Jamie, would you give us the property manager's report? Thank you.
A couple of these things will be brief repeats of last week's storm cleanup from the major rain and winds we got 2 weeks ago was conducted by LMS and our maintenance, collecting large branches, cleaning out a lot of storm drains. And then the weather blessed us with 2 snowstorms that brought a bunch more branches down and clogged up drains. So we're back at it. It was nice this morning. It was warm enough and it wasn't really raining. So we were able to get a half day's worth of cleanup. We'll continue to do so. We're really focusing on storm drains around the houses for leaves and branches and things, make sure we get them cleaned out. So just let us know if you notice anything. Vacation preparation. A lot of people have already left, but if you're going on vacation and you have not told us in the management office that you're going away, please do a form and please winterize your house. Someone went away who goes away every year and is in Florida, and the hose bibs froze and they blew up outside and it's a big mess and they don't have anyone that lives close by. So unforeseen things can happen. Just because you got away with it for 15 years doesn't mean year 16 is going to be your good year. So if you have questions about what you should do before you go away to your house, call our office. We'll try to guide you. Monroe Township Water Department will also come and make sure you're winterized and sticker everything off for you. So you can use that option as well. But we just want you to avoid catastrophe, especially when you're so far away. And a reminder to secure your home. You need to lock your front door, your back door, your windows, your vehicles, and the door between your garage and your house, your regular door. These are all important things just for everyday life. Nothing new has happened in the community that I'm raising these concerns, but it's the time of year when a lot of people go away and houses are unattended, and that's when things tend to happen. So I just don't want to see that happen to anyone here. We want to make sure that everything's safe, your house is kept secure. And that is it for me.
Thank you, Jamie. Kristen? Kristen with the recreation report.
Okay, this is pretty much the same as last week, except Sunday we had our show, which was Fleetwood Mac. It was almost a sellout and it was a success. Coming up January, this Sunday at 1 o'clock, a movie in the ballroom. You could just show up, there's no charge. The name of the movie is Maestro. On February 5th will be another movie in the ballroom at 7 p.m. Society of the Snow. February 7th, Atlantic City, there's still seats available. You can purchase them now. On Super Bowl Sunday, February 11th, it's $8 per person, dessert and coffee included. Sign up now with the concierge. On Sunday, February 18th, there's going to be a Linda Ronstadt tribute. Tickets are still available, not many, but there are still available. On Wednesday, February 28th at 1 o'clock in the ballroom, there'll be a health lecture on arthritis. And March 20th, we have our trip to Parks Casino. There's plenty of seats available. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, somebody wants to, yes, Karen. Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, I'm up, right?
Now it's Mark.
Okay, so in concert with Jamie, the Greenbriar board has been discussing going to electronic voting via internet. This is pretty much the way homeowners associations are going universally, because it's so much quicker, so much cheaper, so much more convenient for everybody, and so much more efficient. For those people who don't have access to the internet, there still will be a mechanism for you to vote. But for the rest of the people who do, when we adopt this program, you'll have the opportunity to do the annual voting through the internet much more conveniently. So I propose authorizing the GWCA to provide notices electronically and authorizing unit owners to vote electronically. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Roll call?
Mark Zirks,
Yes.
Alan Greenberg,
Yes.
Chester Trubinsky,
Yes.
Jack Sandler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay.
Well, is there any business?
So until we get to the discussion of the merger, there's nothing further in Greenbriar.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit later.
We can just say, the only thing I would say is the snow cleanup for this past dual storms was tremendous. And
Yeah.
I hope you're not applauding me because I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I bet you. Years ago, we made it, putting down what we call salt, but it's really a chemical called CMA, is a very expensive proposition. And we were finding we put it down and the next day it would be in the 60s and it was a waste. And what we did is we turned that over to Jamie as the decider, to CMA or not to CMA. And she always errs, what's the word? ERRS, errs on the side of caution, because of the kind of community we are. And the people who live here somehow think their mail is more important than a broken hip. So we do tend to salt a little more, costs us a little more. And we did do that salting, and it really made a big difference. Now, people have come to me and said, I read on an email that said I should be salting my driveway. Don't you salt it? Yes. The community does salt it. You saw the salt. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's purple, but that's the CMA product. But I have a big old bag of salt in my driveway because at some point, the driveway becomes slick again, particularly after the shovel has come through. And if it's left a little bit of a skim and the temperature drops and there's a little bit of moisture on the driveway, it freezes up, and I become terrified to walk out and get my important mail. So I salt. So when you read an email that says, why are we asked to salt our driveway when the community does it, but the community can't stay on top of it the way you can. So it was great. It was spectacular, the results of this storm snow removal. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Matt. And I think everybody agreed that they did a great job. Jamie, you did a great job of leading them, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. We're gonna move on to the regular business now. Is that correct? So the first item on business is the executive spending. We spoke about it at the last meeting where there was basically no cap or a cap of 50,000. And the board, after much discussion and speaking to Jamie, we agreed that for ordinary spending, we'd make it a $5,000 limit, and in emergency spending, we give it a authority to 50. And with the snow emergency, we didn't care because it was a matter of safety and protecting our homes and protecting the people. So when Jamie said, what's the limit? We said, whatever you think's appropriate. So in a situation like that, we have to look at it. So tonight we're going to have a vote regarding that. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. So what it means is this: Jamie will have the management. We'll have a spending limit of 5,000 for ordinary purchases. Paper, ordinary business purchases. I can't answer what they are because as a business, there's everyday purchases. You have to stock your business.
Budgeted items.
No Carmine, no piano. For each individual acquisition, so it would be 5,000 per spending. I'll let Kathy discuss that since she's our treasurer.
Just to give it some context, normal business consists of many, many different items in this community. It's a large community. Jamie does an incredible job of identifying what is important, what needs to be done. These are customary items, purchasing paper, replacing chairs, replacing broken tiles, all of this. Just to give it a little more context, our average invoice is well under $5,000. So clearly, the only items above that level are generally emergency items, things that come up that were not, normal everyday business. So it is each individual item. She handles any purchase that needs to be made up to $5,000. That would be the spending limit. Any emergency item. Emergency signifies anything that will protect the safety of our residents. Any item that comes up that is critical, structures has fallen or may fall. Light poles, correct, light poles that fell down, the cleanup of branches so that our residents can get through the roads. These are emergency items. She has a $50,000 cap there. So that is the only differentiation. I just want everybody to be clear. Emergency, any emergency business, she will have a $50,000 cap. Any normal daily purchases, she has a $5,000 cap. Now, what does that mean? If it exceeds 5,000, she contacts the board and we respond to her. Yes, it's okay. No, it's not okay. That's all it requires. But it at least places a cap on just daily things that we may not need or we do need. But at the very least, someone else can look at it and say, yes, we agree. $6,000 for paper is necessary. And so on.
So Joe made the motion to. Well, I'd like to hold questions for the open forum.
Sandra Cohen, 9 Winthrop Road. I just have a question about this thing that they're going to vote on, and if they vote on it, then my question is, no, thank you. My question is this, how much did Jamie have to spend before this cap? Hello?
That was, no, Jim raised the 50,000.
It was 50,000, which still was for emergencies. Otherwise, there wasn't a cap on anything that was budgeted. So if there was a budgeted item that's normally $12,000, I could just approve it. And for instance, we do have some things like that now. Today, we actually had to get the truck repaired and it came out to $3,000. I'm able to make that decision. We need the truck for the workers. So there are some budgeted expenses that are going to be over $5,000. So in my mind, and I'll clarify with the board, we're talking non-budgeted items, things that are not in contract, that are not a planned purchase, but something that we're coming up with that is going to be $5,000 or more that the board wants to get the second approval on.
So furniture and things to be repaired, you have to go to the board for that. Is that correct?
For an item that exceeds the $5,000 cap, and it is a discretionary item, something we don't need for normal business, or has exceeded, let's say we decide to buy paper and the paper is now $7,000 for whatever reason. Jamie would come to the board, simple email. We say, yes, we agree. No, we do not agree.
Then you don't have paper.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
Let's put this perspective. After we reviewed the bills and everything, we found that 5,000 was actually way more than Jamie needs to run and transact, or I should say the management for the office. It's way above whatever she needs to transact normal business. We just want to be aware when there's a large purchase. That's all. It's not, we're not going to approve it, nor is it we're going to stand in the way. It's just that we want to be informed. That's all. That's all it is. It's not a question of trust, Sandra. It's just a question of the board thinking, doing their due diligence. Okay. So again, Joe made a motion. Does anyone want to second that motion? Oh, The motion is to change to cap the ordinary management spending limits for ordinary items to 5,000 per purchase. And in the event of an emergency, up to 50,000. That's the motion. Does anyone want to make that motion? Good. And Tom,
I make a motion to approve the resolution as proposed.
okay, since. Okay.
Now do a roll call.
you're okay.
Larry Wilson,
Yes.
Jay Lesper,
This is, I want to make sure everybody understands, it's not a cumulative amount, meaning when you hit the 50, you can't go any further. If it's 3 10,000s, that's not 30, that's 10,000 per approval. You follow what I mean? Okay. Okay.
okay,
Sorry, interrupted.
all right, let me start again, hold on.
I'm getting a lot on Zoom, as all the friends in the audience can see. So when you speak into the microphone, it has to be loud, crisp, clear, and not right on top. I know, it's a lot of instructions for something that should be so easy, but if they can't hear, then they type in all caps and I get upset.
All right, Larry Rosen, Jay Resper, Kathy Dodano, Karen Schoenberg,
Yes.
Bob Brown, Tom Clark, Surjit Sandhu,
Okay, thank you. Next item is the Garden Club Alliance. Am I doing okay with the microphone, Jamie? Okay, thank you. Okay, we spoke about this also, that the board had agreed that we would allow $1,000 to assist the Garden Club. So does anyone want to make, the motion is to approve the $1,000? No, we discussed it last week. People went up there and spoke about it. Tom, you want to talk? What, Tom?
The way it's handled, it was discussed last week. Last week was a discussion meeting. Yes, you can, yes, but we're taking a motion now to take this under consideration. After we approve to move it, then you'll have an opportunity to speak again, and then we take a final vote. Okay.
Okay, does anyone, so the motion is to approve $1,000 for the Garden Club. Does anyone want to make that motion? Does
um,
all right, let's,
Hold on. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. Yes, we make the motion. We're gonna move the item. It's now gonna be open for a vote, but we take comment before we vote on it.
I listened to the instructions. All right, so I was part of the board when we voted for $20,000 to fix up the garden. It was for railroad ties, it was for fencing, it was for whatever else. It was for hosing, was something to get the water. That was 2 years ago. I was not on the board then, or maybe I was, I forgot. $20,000, if I'm correct. And we discussed last week part of the $1,000. And you said you wanted to get sod or earth or whatever it was, and you didn't like LMS and you wanted to get it. Now, $1,000 for 36 people, I think is a lot of money, considering the fact that the 36 people who have these pieces of property or whatever, my question, is there a waiting list to go into the garden club to plant things? There is, but these people who are there now, they just stay there forever and ever and ever and ever. So nobody who comes in now has an opportunity to be part of that garden club. The point is, $1,000 from my money, after we already spent $20,000, I think is a lot of money that's what I think personally. That's what I think, because then all the other clubs, like the photography club, who spend their own money developing the pictures and framing them, they're going to want money for that. And rightly so, if we're giving it to one club, we should be giving it to all the clubs, which I don't think is correct, because the tap dancing club never asked anybody for a dime when we spent $100 on each costume and never charged the community one dime for performing here for all the years we did every year. Thank you.
Carmine Campanella, 80 Leeds Lane. I am the president, chairman, whatever you want to call it, of the Garden Club.
Get closer, Carmine.
Okay, I'm the chairman of the Garden Club. We have 36 gardens. We have a waiting list of about 7 people right now. We're probably gonna have 2 vacancies. So right now, 2 or 3 vacancies. The $1,000 that you're talking about goes to the enrichment of the soil on a yearly basis. Okay, over the last 10 years that I've been in the garden, the last 6 or 7 as president, we should take $10 from each person, $360. And because of COVID and things like that, we suspended all. But over the time with COVID, I wound up having about $500 or $600 left over. That $20,000 that you spent, or that was spent a couple of years ago for a new fence, okay, that was done. I don't know who asked for it, but we didn't ask for it. Okay, the Garden Club did not. Don't open your mouth and say nothing. The Garden Club. Wait, you are on the board, so you know what it is. Hold on, it was not asked for.
Listen.
It was not asked for, okay? When the fence was put in, it was.
Carmine, please. We've heard Sandra's concerns. We've spoken about this at the last meeting. I didn't hear much opposition to it. The board took it under careful consideration. We felt we'd make this one-time thing. The property is owned by WOA. It sits on it. And I didn't see it being a big deal. I think Kathy may have something that she wants to add to it also.
I cannot speak to what happened prior and what was approved. I can say that, yes, we do not make it a pattern to assist our committees, but we felt in this particular case, it's not a very large amount of money, but we felt that it beautifies the grounds. It is not an annual. It is a one-time. We do, and are grateful for the people that do this work to make the community look nice and better. This is not a pattern. It is not, we are not setting a precedent. It is not the intention to help other committees. It was done as a one-time project.
All right, what I would like to add to that is the $1,000 that we're requesting is primarily, like this year, we're going to require topsoil, okay? We don't require truckloads of topsoil every year, okay? That might come in every 2 or 3 years. The most we'll probably ever spend, okay, on a normal basis might be $300 or $400. Now, as far as the people You're spending $1,000 for only 36 people, okay? Well, the bocce club has about 50 people, and they rebuilt the whole bocce court a couple years ago. You're dealing with only 50 people. It just so happens that we have.
Thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate that, but.
Thank you.
And you have made a motion.
Can I, once it's an important point here, I think that everyone has to take into account. The garden club does not own this land. It's owned by the association. And just like we take care of the lawns and the bushes and everything in here, we're also taking care of the garden. So, and they're nice enough to do the work and get something from it. A lot of the food gets donated down to the pantry. So it's a great thing. It's an asset to the community. It's $1,000. It's money that we're putting in to our own property. So it's, my opinion, well worth the money. Thank you.
I have a comment. You know, this is common sense. Being a son of a farmer, I grew up on a farm. In my opinion, it's wonderful you guys are growing fresh food. You know, you go to any of these supermarkets, it's God knows 2 or 3 weeks old. I commend you folks who grow fresh food. I was in the old country a month and a half ago. There's no comparison when you eat fresh food right outside your door. So God bless you.
Thank you. Okay. I mean.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with $1,000 because we maintain our courts. We maintain our pickleball courts, we maintain everything. So we're now maintaining the ground. I do not have a problem with it. However, what was said is there's a waiting list. And you have to wait for somebody to decide not to do this. Now, I go to Aquasize and I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to sign up for Aquasize. Why? Because I want to do it. But if somebody gets up at 5 to 6, they're going to get my spot. And we need to have equal community access. So I know there are issues, okay, with the garden. But I think before we vote for the $1,000, we need to make sure that the community has equal access and a new person coming in has the ability to say, I want to be in this, put me in the mix, and I would like a plot as well. Just because you've been here 20 years doesn't mean you're entitled to have the plot. So I don't think we should, it's not funny. I don't think we should be putting $1,000 into something where we don't have equal community access. If someone lives here a long time, that doesn't give them first rights to anything.
So how about we do this? First of all, let's move on with this 1,000 and let's talk to the garden club about setting up some sort of a rotation system or something. Let's move on and vote on the motion, please.
Gonna take a roll call. Okay. Larry Rosen, Jay Resper, Karen Schoenberg, Kathy Dodano, Sergi Sandu, Bob Brown, Tom Clark.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, we had a discussion regarding copying of association documents. And it seemed to be a area that nobody really had a handle on how to handle it, how it should be done. Tom Clark did a lot of research, and through his research, he discovered that we should allow the residents the ability to copy. I think Tom should speak to that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to basically read from what I sent to everyone during this. I'm going to read to you what basically everyone received from me. Basically, the board reviewed our documents, and by reviewing the documents and copy policy, it was found it was not in compliance with current standards under the 2022 revised Radburn Law, open public meetings. Radburn Law governs basically how we operate. Therefore, the board has agreed to immediately allow any homeowner the ability to review and copy any contract approved by the board at an open public meeting. All requests must be made by appointment through the property manager's office. Copies can be made at a cost of 25 cents a copy, or use your phone, take all the copies you want. It's free. There's no problem there. Okay? And 25 cents a page. And basically what we'll do at some point, as we get this actually in the on paper, we'll codify this so that any future board will also follow the same rules. This is part of the law that I discovered under the Radburn. It was NJ Administration Code 5:26-8.12, where those changes were made. Okay, so, excuse me. I can read the part that did it. Yeah, okay, not a problem. Okay, I'll read to the record what the part it changes that means we have to allow copying. If a meeting is recorded electronically, a written record shall be taken of the matters addressed and the matters voted on. Association members shall have access to the electronic recording for 30 days from the date of the written minutes are approved, as well as the written record, including the rights to make copy of electronic or written records. So the minutes reflect the business of the board. So therefore, anything the board is doing, you can have a copy of. Correct. Well, you need to come to the mic.
Disposal of the contract. If somebody wants to come up and look at it after it's been approved. Okay.
Anita Shrine, 36 Dawson Lane, and I apologize. I just wanted to make sure I hear it correctly, that of course we are entitled to our minutes, afterwards, but anything that we do in the minutes, yes, we are entitled to it. So that's what you're saying, essentially.
There's always been a policy in place for you to review it,
Yes, it is.
but you could not get a copy of it. What the change in the law is now gives you the ability to get a copy of it by requesting it.
Well, it's a little difficult for me to understand Radburn's law because coming from corporate America, when we have purchasing agents send out quotes and contracts come in, and I know that Kathy, I think, is with the MTA, unless New York has changed their rules because my family is part of that too. I know that it's not allowed. I mean, at IBM alone, you can't send a Christmas card. So because we're under Radburn, I can't fight it. If we were under Radburn, I wouldn't like it. For many reasons, and I thank you.
Just so you know, the Radburn change. And due to the Radburn change, we have to comply. Right, we have to comply. And since Tom discovered that, we want to make sure we're in compliance. That's what it comes down to.
I still have a concern. I understand, we need to comply with Radburn. My only issue is when somebody makes a copy, takes it home, who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be the custodian that it is not being used for the purpose it was taken? It's a very serious matter. You take something home, who's going to be responsible to secure it? I think if the person takes full responsibility, all the liabilities, accept all the liabilities, I'm all for it. But just to make copies, take them home, I'm not for it.
And that what we're talking about are not contracts currently. We're not talking about contracts that are in negotiation. These are voted, signed contracts for the community. So there's no way that one person would find out from another how much bidding was done. That's kept secret until the contract is signed. Then you can have a copy.
Well, why would anybody want a copy? I don't understand the thinking.
Could you name an address, please?
Wally Reich, Free World Fleet. Why would anybody want a copy? This never came up before unless they're going to compare it to somebody else or give that copy to another company. So what? Well,
The reason why the law was changed is because some of these contracts are written with lawyer jargon and they're very long and complicated. And for you to be able to sit down and read it in one location, some of them, if you got 50-page contract, it's nearly impossible. So the reason you make copies is so it's convenient for the people. I mean, everybody in this room is paying for anything this board approves. So you certainly have a right to it. So that was the intent of the law, so that as a person who's paying for these things, you have a right to see the contract and get a copy. That was the thought behind the law.
okay, this has never come up before. And maybe, Tom, you're bringing it up for some reason. I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, it hasn't come up. But as I said, since the law changed, we have to be in compliance with the law. So anyway, if it's a signed contract, which is available, as Tom said, we pay for this contract, everybody should have an opportunity to look at it. Yes. And even the Bradburn law says they can copy it. We can't stop that.
Can I ask a question? The arrangements by which people can make copies of these various documents, and we're talking about contracts and also invoices, anything that we file away here that is accessible. Number one, it's only residents of the community. If you live in Concordia, you can't come in here and see our garbage contract. So it's only residents of the community. But my question is this, to those of you who have studied this more carefully than I have, and you know, we've discussed what I know about this and what research I've done on it. My question is this, is there any document that the resident signs binding that resident from not revealing anything they see or get? So that if I take a copy of a certain contract, am I bound by some document or law or rule to ensure that I don't then share it with some third party who's not?
It's under the law. No, under the law, if you're receiving a document at an open public meeting, I mean, anybody can take anything from here and walk out the door and spread and say whatever you want. So you don't control that. You can't. The law doesn't intend to control any of that. If people are going to take a copy and use it for some reason that they shouldn't be, but it's an open document. It's an open document. You got to remember that under the open public meeting law, that's how it works. You're entitled to a copy. So the board stays accountable. That's the intent of the law. So everyone knows what's going on if they want to look. You don't have to go look at the contract if you don't want to.
Well, wait a second, you're kind of mixing up stuff because open public meeting laws refer to the meetings that municipalities have and members of the community attend. We're a private enterprise here. The people in this community are entitled to look at these documents. But what I'm asking is, are they bound not to share those documents with anybody outside the community? Is there anything that binds them legally?
There's nothing on that. If it's an open meeting and there's a document produced from that and you have a copy with it, it's yours to do with what you want. There's nothing in the law that says what you have to do with the copy of that document.
No, this is not, yeah, so I'm saying you're mixing up open meetings like municipalities, townships would have.
Public under Bradburn specifically goes into open meetings.
Open meetings, right,
Yes, they do.
residents.
Yes, they do, of course.
Are employment contracts exempt from access? They are. Okay.
Employee contracts or anything to do with employees are covered under a different law, so that would be exempt.
I'm so glad I get to speak again. Sandra Cohn on Winthrop. So if you're saying, Tom, that it's very legalized kind of language, and that's why people wouldn't be able to look at it and read it, then they would take a copy and take it home, and then they'd be able to understand the legalized stuff. And if they did, what is the purpose of it? What are they going to do with it? Could they overturn the document or the contract? And this is an open meeting. We're not talking about contracts here. So it has to be,
This is an open meeting.
but you don't talk about contracts here.
We're not approving one tonight.
I beg your pardon?
We're not approving a contract tonight.
But if you were, you just said contract.
Yeah, we'll discuss the contract, and if people want to get into the details, because some contracts, like I said, could be 50 pages long,
Right,
and people want to get a copy of it, they certainly have get the right to get a copy of it. and
okay.
It's in the contract.
And then what are they gonna do with that? If they don't
And they come back
understand
to the
it?
board and they can say, there's something in your contract I'm not happy with.
And then what? It's one person, you've already signed it and agreed and this. It's not like the entire community,
Was to make this as open as possible for everyone, and
but it's
I
not
think we
everyone.
can.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
Sandra, please. I am all we are doing here, this is always available to our homes. It is a policy. You make an appointment, you can go see it. All we are doing is trying to abide by the law
Okay,
so that we have no issues in case.
right, so
In the event that a homeowner says, you're not allowing me to make a copy because we don't have that policy in place that abides by the law. So all we're doing is trying to protect ourselves from any resident complaining that you're not following the law. That's all
So
we're
then-
doing.
then they-
I don't know if anybody wants a copy of a contract.
Well, evidently,
Why they don't
evidently
want it?
Tom wants a copy of the contract because you had asked, or Tom or whoever wants a copy of a contract. What I'm asking, and I've been here a very long time, what I'm asking is, if you get the contract, you get a copy, you take it home, it's legalese, you have to kind of get to understand it or speak to an attorney, and if you don't like it, the contract is already in place, signed, sealed, and delivered. So what is somebody here going to do?
But you can do the same thing now if you have someone who maybe, my father had a photographic memory, who can commit it to memory. You have the same.
But when we vote for the board, we kind of put trust in the board that they're going to do something that is good for the community.
I'm not sure why we're having this continued discussion when is comply with the regulations which protects our association. And I'm not sure why we're getting into this so deeply. It's, the law says we have to allow it. Therefore, whether you agree with it or not, we have to allow it. So that's it. So don't understand why we're getting into it. Okay, and I appreciate everybody who's passionate, wants to be involved and wants to know what's going on, and I really do. And I appreciate everybody's opinions, and it's important, but it's also important to understand whether we agree with it or not, we must comply. That's what it comes down to. The next thing is the bistro. So there's been a lot of talk about should we have it, should we not have it, what do we do, what do we don't do after. I've been approached by many residents who have told me they do not want the bistro to go down, to leave, to shut. They are very upset that they hear that there's a possibility. We really, as the board, hasn't made a decision, but I just want to let you know that it's uppermost on our mind to figure out how to keep it going, what we need to do. And that's why it's here, just for us to let you know that we're not forgetting about it. And that we think it's, the board thinks that it's an important asset to our community, and we have to figure out how to make sure that we can get it going.
If I might add,
we are willing, able, and anxious to interview any other restaurant which is interested in coming here. My guess is, having done that previously, that other than Bistro, nobody's going to want to come. However, we will do that so that we can tell the community who we spoke to, what they want or whatever, and then we will work. But we don't, I understand.
Karen,
Obviously, you're in favor. And the main thing we don't want to do is lose any restaurant, but it's only fair to speak to other restaurants to see what they would have to offer. That's all we're doing.
Karen, that
I
was
know
another
that.
question.
I know we've lost.
I'm just gonna read off one Zoom comment before we keep going down the line. Because she tried to get in under the wire at the last one and it was about the same topic. So she said, I support renewing a contract for Business Bistro. Among my reasons are, it's convenient to have them. When I'm out of town, we can get a meal for my husband who did not go with me, or when we're both sick. I ordered a meal that was delivered. Another time I had company and ordered their food. It's an asset to have them in our community. Holiday meals by them, Hanukkah, St. Patty's Day are always so delicious and plentiful. When we ordered a meal for each of us, 2 meals, it lasted 3 nights. The salads are fresh, the desserts are yummy, and the entrees are good and tasty. In addition, wasn't there a vote taken at least once, if not twice, when there was a majority of people who wanted a restaurant to stay? I remember ordering from B Bistro before they moved into our facility. I liked them then as I do now. Finally, George is easy to work with and open to suggestions. Thank you, from Francis Gunther.
Now I don't have to say a thing. It's not good. It's not good because I can't tell you, Lolly Rush, I'm not even gonna go through that. This restaurant, as it is now, has helped hundreds of our seniors. And myself included. I don't know what I would have done after my husband passed. I don't know what I would have done even now. George is a wonderful guy. He's certainly very, very generous to whoever comes in. The people that you heard don't want this restaurant are the people that never came there. If they would just come there and see what we have. I know there's another complaint, he doesn't pay rent. That's baloney. None of them paid rent. I've been here for 12 years under 5 different restaurants. This man is willing to stay. He's willing to change his hours. He's waiting for the board to tell him what they want. And the rent is a very minimal thing. If you don't charge him rent, his rates and his lunches and whatever will be minimal. If you charge him, he has to put on a couple of waitresses and raise his prices. I know that whoever is following me says that they have restaurants banging on our doors. They could bang, but they will never, never stay here. We are in a very bad position, and I welcome George and B Bistro, and please just think about it.
I just want to assure the community, we are not disregarding B Bistro. We are going to keep talking to him. We will work with him, but we also, if there are other restaurants who can work here, we want to see what they have to offer. We are not threatening to throw out B Bistro. We're simply saying that we have an obligation to the community that if somebody else wants to talk to us, we'll just talk to them. So far, nobody. I understand that. I understand that. Are we finished? Okay, but the thing is, All I'm saying is, we're not going to turn our back without even talking to these people. I have not heard of another restaurant that really, I think, would be interested in here. And every time they find out how little work there really is here, nobody wants to come.
Hi, Linda Claus, for Leeds Lane. I just want to say, when I first moved here, there was a restaurant. I don't know exactly what happened, but there was events in the restaurant and it was a viable actual restaurant. The Bistro is a very self-serving entity. It has all the trucks that you see outside. They do catering. They do catering that doesn't serve our community, that is self-serving to them. They have big catering jobs. They have 6 trucks out there. I want these. I mean,
Wait a second. We've heard this, we know this, we understand, but wait a second. There's nobody else walking in the door that's saying, hey.
okay, I have 2 restaurants.
You keep saying that, but you haven't brought anybody. Instead of getting up here and giving us this, what you keep doing, have them come and meet with the board. Stop saying that.
So the only other thing.
Hold on, I'm talking, please. Stop saying that. She doesn't stop. She says the same thing. We've heard it many times. Nobody's saying no. What we're saying is you say this, but you've not once brought anyone here.
I have people. You didn't ask me. No one asked me for the names.
That's not true.
Besides that, I just have an issue because the 18-wheelers that come in the middle of the night, well, maybe nobody is. What? Really, I have to tell you something. This is the rudest bunch of people I've ever met.
Everybody, listen, everybody has a right to express their opinion. Everybody has a right to say their piece. But if you're going to say something which you've said, and we've listened to you, nobody's saying you haven't, but in the time, you haven't once given a name or introduced anyone. When you saying nobody's asked you, that's not true, but let's move on. Bring it to us. We will be more than happy to interview, as Karen said, as every board member said.
Anita Schrank, 6, I forgot my address, 30. Oh my God. 30, oh, thank you. Thank God you live on my block. 36 North Lake. I have to just introduce myself. I was the vice president of the WOA board for 2 terms, and I was in charge or helped out with the restaurant a lot. We had a lot of restaurants here. And one of the main problems, this has nothing to do with Business Bistro, by the way. I would cook, but I'm a lousy cook, so I'd be happy to open a restaurant for you. But truthfully, it has to do with, we've had a lot of different style of restaurants. At the beginning, it was very, very difficult. Some of our people were very rude. The waitresses had a hard time. There's a whole terrible history here about restaurants. Not only that, some of the restaurants, what is it, up on 33, one of the developments, who came here, the last restaurant, Nob Hill, thank you. They have a bar in Nob Hill, and that's where they make their money. Here they made nothing. And finally, after I'm here 15 years, finally, after convincing the people here, the residents here, that we really have to pay because food prices went up and everything went up, and we do have to pay. Well, they said fine, and that's what they did. They left us just when the pandemic started. So our poor people really, really had a hard time, especially our elderly people. I don't know much about Business Bistro. I'm not the best cook, but I don't need them. Lolly needs them. She's not a good cook. But anyway, the truth is, I'm sure we want a restaurant. Now, nobody's trying to get rid of Business Bistro, but if the board is considering it, rather than keep on talking about it, maybe we should get a group of people, a small group of people, to take a look into the restaurant for a couple of months and then bring back a report and see who we can interview if we get anybody. Because this is going to go on and on and on, and it's never going to be resolved. 12. Either we'll keep him because we can't find anybody, either we'll use him as a regular restaurant, we will pay him so he can have waiters or waitresses, and that'll be the end. But this has been going on too long, and to me, that's the solution.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Please, let's keep moving. Limit your time to 3 minutes, please.
Okay,
I know that's hard, Anita.
set the timer. Diane Stanley, 22 Trent Road. I just want to also piggyback that I am a big fan of B Bistro, and I think it's really important that we have it. One question that I have, though, is has the board actually met with George? So you've had a meeting, because okay, so my concern is, as a resident, we do have all this talk about no restaurant, it's no good, it's good, all this, and I'm not understanding why, in the interest of transparency and communication, that there's not a meeting that's at least as a starter to be held so that people can talk about what's going on. And that seems to me to be step one, and I'm not quite sure, and I'm concerned that it hasn't happened, and I know everybody's busy, but it needs to be on the agenda.
We will promptly meet with B Bistro.
Oh, good,
Okay?
thank you.
We assure you that we will get the board to meet with him very soon.
Okay, thank you. And the second thing was just it's a commentary, but I would really hope, like others, that we don't cut off our nose to spite our face, right? So we're gonna get rid of somebody when we don't even have somebody in place. And I've only been here 6 years, but being here, I have memories of the meetings with when we were gonna get charged the extra fee and the huge crowds and constant controversy. And, we're a lot of people, and you're never gonna please all the people all the time. And who wants sit down and who wants that, but we have something that's somewhat workable compared to an empty room. So I think it's important that we keep that dialogue going. Thank you.
My name is Myron Alpern, 11 Aberdeen Way. I'm going to take a totally different approach to what everybody thinks here. I'm here 25, 26 years. We have people on this board that have not lived here as long as I have no clue, no investigation as to what's going on with the restaurant situation. Number one, I was the person that brought this company to this place. I was president of the After Hours Club. I personally had a large company, did a lot of big affairs in large hotels in Chicago, all over the United States. I have a lot of experience in understanding how to run this type of operation. Now, what I did as president of the After Hours Club, I interviewed the owner of the former business bistro company, and I took my board down to his restaurant. I wanted to see what this guy was all about. I took my board down to the Giants Stadium. He invited us for lunch, and I interviewed him, and he gave us lunch. And I saw what kind of operation he is. Number one, you can't have a restaurant come in here and do this kind of job. Number one, you need a caterer. You need a guy that knows how to purchase food, knows how to keep it fresh, and keeps a clean restaurant. In the past, we've had people here that had mice and rats running around in this restaurant and roaches. I want to compliment Jamie for turning this place around. We had a manager here that was disgusting. He never checked the restaurants, never checked the other people, never had a routine of checking what's going on here. God knows this guy was probably on the take, and he was a past policeman. Okay, so what happened was I brought him here. What does this guy do? I'm going to point out the advantages of what this man does. A cockamamie restaurant has no clue how to purchase food for people like this, has no idea how to deal with people in this environment. Number one, no other community has the services that this man performs. Number one, he delivers to your home. Number two, he handles a disaster. What is it? COVID. He delivered to your house, snowstorms. He comes to your door, delivers food that's fresh and more than you expected. Everybody says, gee, I got 2 meals out of this. Oh my God. And no choice, you are not going to find anybody here. I was friendly with a couple of restaurants downtown. I'm in this community 25 years. We have a club called the Romeos. We go out to lunch every Wednesday. And I know every restaurant and I know the back door of
So,
each place.
again, I appreciate what you're saying.
Just remember what this offers. That's all I'm saying. Nobody points out what this guy offers here. That's the whole point.
I'm not disputing what you're saying.
They always argue that he's bad, but nobody tells the benefits of this man.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I said, it is a passionate topic. And there's a lot of different opinions. Personally, I think we need a restaurant, whether it's Bistro or another restaurant. My concern is if we bring in someone else, there's a learning curve to bring them in. That's the problem we've had in the past since I've been here. When we bring in a new restaurant operator, all of a sudden, until we get things straight, then we find out they're out the door because they're not making money. So whereas Bistro seems to have been surviving, whether we like what he does or he doesn't, he does serve our community. And if it's not Bistro, then let it be somebody else, but make sure the most important thing is serving our community. That's the most important thing.
That's okay. It's okay. Regina Savarese, 90 Harvard. Okay, I'm on the Senior Social Club Board and we do the catering, and it seems George does catering for a lot of the clubs around here. He does really a good job. He really tries. And I mean, I've known George for a while now, and he's kind, he's courteous. I see him even at the barbecues that we have, 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day. He hands out things for free. He hands out ice cream to the kids. He hands out 2, 3 ice cream sandwiches at a time. He's polite, courteous, as I just mentioned. And it's a real shame to get rid of him. A lot of restaurants have tried, they really have. And it seems that the audience just does not like the restaurants. Anybody that comes in here is given a very hard time. You take Bunny in town, the diner she had, I mean, she sold it now, she doesn't have it any longer. But what happened with her, she tried her best, she really did. And even her people they did something about it, they didn't want to go, but yet they went to her diner. So it just gives you an example of what people that try to come in here, and I know it was mentioned already, but I mean, really take into consideration things that he does. I mean, the man was even willing to exchange recipes with me. Now I'm a cook, I cook every night. So to me, I give him a fair chance, really. Thank you. And also, it's the younger audience you should think about, the younger people that are moving in, maybe they want to see him here.
I do want to say thank you all for your feedback. It's extremely important to us. Again, and I will repeat, we're not trying necessarily to get rid of this restaurant. We're only looking to see if there are other options so that we know. But also, as we indicated, we have every intention to meet with this George is his name, with the restaurant owner. Jamie has told us that he is more than willing to come in, which is very important to us, and work with us. So at the very least, I'd like to say, please give us that opportunity. We'd like to speak with him. I hear a lot of very favorable here. I hear also unfavorable. So we're just trying to make sure that we respect everyone's needs, because it works for some, it may not work for others, but we're going to try to make it work for everyone.
That's all we can do.
Paul Clonan, 41 Winton's Way. I've been here a long time. I've seen at least 10 different restaurateurs come and go. They just simply can't make a living here the traditional way. People should consider this as another activity. We have tennis courts. How many people use the tennis courts? A small percentage. Should we close them up? How many people use the bocce courts? Should we close it up? So that maybe here, not everybody uses it, but should we close it up? Why take away what people need? Okay, I'll make it brief. Thank you.
I have a few from Zoom that I'll read off real quick while
Yeah, actually, the Zoom.
and
after
yeah,
the
that's
next-
ready.
next-
Okay, so. Recommendation from Evelyn Sachs, have the bistro pay a percentage of their catering so we can make some money. Ask Christos why they're such a success. Not gonna speak on behalf of the board or George about him giving away a percentage of his income, but I can tell you Christos has pass-through traffic. They'll have cross traffic. They're in a shopping center where anyone can pull over at any time. Oh, I'm running to my dentist here, I'm running to the grocery store. So they do have that benefit. And someone else later, everyone again says, I believe the owner of Hightstown Diner owns Crystals. We should ask them, and we did. So we did. We had a long dialogue with them. They were supposed to come and look at the restaurant and decided that they were no longer interested. Marion Siegel, I'm here for 30 years. I've had several restaurants, none have a full outside business like now. I think the board should spend more time and look at it. A full restaurant, different hours, service was a selling point. Christine Perez, we enjoyed it as the resident restaurant prior to be bistro. I've had numerous chats with George. I do agree he's open to hearing your concerns and seems to want to interact with our community in a positive way. However, as I've told George, and I'll say here, some simple changes that many who have spoken with, like real milk for coffee and maybe burgers, would be a nice compromise and can be reached. He does have milk because I get it there for my cereal, so. I'm a consumer. Richard Klein, why not ask him to pay some rent for the profits he is making from his catering business at our expense? I know that's something the board is going to discuss with George. Christine Perillo, I also appreciate the board being open to looking for fits for other restaurants as well, doing your due diligence. Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, can I just say
One minute, please. I'm standing here a while. Hi, my name is Gail Alpern. Most of the time, I don't need a microphone. My children will tell you I just need two tin cans and a string, and you can hear me, but I'll use the mic. I was on the board for 6 years. Very recently, I was not elected again, but that doesn't make me an imbecile. I've been here 25 years. That's a long time. And I've seen this restaurant come and the restaurants go. We patronized those restaurants in the beginning. We would have 10 people at a nice big round table in the back, and we would have a great time, 2 hours. We would sit there on a Friday or a Saturday night. We would actually take numbers to get in. It was like if you got in, you were in the in crowd, and if you didn't, you were out. So we loved it. And as time went by, the residents as a whole killed every single resident, killed everyone. They killed them because they didn't tip them. They killed them because they were mean to the waitresses. They killed them because they didn't come. And all of you are guilty. You're guilty, guilty, guilty. And why are you guilty? Because you sit here, many of you, and criticize the restaurant and then don't even go to it. Now, that's not everybody. And I agree it's not. There is a percentage of the population that patronizes it. And there's a percentage that haven't had a cup of coffee. Every Wednesday, when I play Mahjong here, we come and we eat lunch here on purpose to use the restaurant. And I open my eyes and I look around, and there are people coming in from the Perkle room or whatever, And guess what they're ordering? They're ordering a cup of coffee. That woman, give her a cigar. Yes, they're ordering a cup of coffee. And you expect this man to make a living because you are ordering a cup of coffee. Shame on you. If you don't come here and you don't use it, you have nothing to say. So there's the element that uses it, especially clubs who have 150 to 200 people, and they use him like the After Hours Club, like Senior Social, like others who hold a party here on a Sunday and have a 60th birthday party, and they give the man a couple of $1,000. But if you're giving him $250 a month, meaning $2.50, how is this man supposed to make a living? At catering, that's how he makes a living. He doesn't make a living because he gives you a $10 tuna fish sandwich. Think.
Larry,
Yeah.
I have something quick.
You know, this discussion has been very passionate. I have never met George, but my thinking process is very simple and pragmatic. I celebrate success. If George is making money, if he's profitable, that's the only way he's going to be an asset to all of us. His food quality will be better, his service will be better, maybe he will do more things for us. But if he's starving like everybody else before him, he'll disappear. So I just want to end by saying, let's help this guy to succeed.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everybody's, as Sergey said, passion. And it's a hot topic. I am committed to talking to George and any other restaurant that wants to come in, but let's move on to the next topic, which has my name next to it along with Mark. See that, Mark?
I want what's up? Mine, I have an issue. Okay. I have something to discuss that concerns only WOA. So before they get into a joint, you can't hear me? Okay. My subject matter only affects WOA. But since we're all part of this community, we're all WOA, but it's not, they're going to discuss something of a joint with Greenbriar Board. Okay, here's my answer. We had long discussions in the boardroom about the speed camera. There is a current, let me speak, the speed camera. The board has discussed this, and we have decided upon looking at all of the things that I will describe, that we are no longer going to continue to use the speed camera. I'm going to explain it to you. When we started with the speed camera, we asked our lawyer whether she thought it was legal, because the state does not allow speed cameras on public roads. And we asked her, well, do you think that since we're let me speak, a private community, she said to us that she believed that it is legal, but we have to understand that it may be subject to a court challenge. Okay, that is a fact. As a result of that, the board sent a letter to the Division of Motor Vehicles to see if they could give us any guidance on the legality of using it on private property. They declined to say anything, which, what can you expect? Okay, the bottom line here is very simple. No other community has taken this to court. And if we get a challenge, this community, will have to defend, pay lawyers' fees, and go to court so that an answer is obtained. The only people who will give an answer is a court decision. And we have decided that given our financial situation right now, we will not commit to taking and defending the speed camera to court because we have other matters that are of greater monetary importance at this moment. If another community in New Jersey decides to take it or defend it or whatever they want to do, and we get a court case, we could resurrect at that time. But right now, we are not going to, we are just stopping the use of the speed camera because we don't want to commit ourselves to a lot of legal fees. I don't know. We will have to, the board will have to figure out what to do about the camera, but we will talk about it. I understand that. The board, this board didn't buy the camera.
Any,
And as I said before, which I was reluctant to say,
if any,
the last board did not authorize the purchase of the camera. There was one person on the board who told you. No, wait, I want to talk.
if you have questions in the audience, please just go to the microphone.
What is the problem?
So, because we've spoken about this in the past.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we don't have to point out that Jamie's not responsible for this. It was one person on the prior board. I'm not letting you give her the weight on this. Well,
Right.
I want to make sure you know.
Everybody, please rest assured, know that it was not Jamie who made the purchase.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know why people keep thinking that Jamie. I don't know why Jamie, I don't know why it keeps coming back to that. It was not Jamie. She doesn't make purchases like that without a board approval. Just want you to understand that. And that was the prior board, as Karen said.
It wasn't the board that made that decision. I don't like saying this again, but I'm going to repeat myself. It wasn't the board that authorized the purchase of that camera.
Karen, I need to try again. I don't care who made the decision, nor do I care about the equipment, whether it's there or not. I will tell you that the first year that I was on the board, we had someone come through the back gate, drive through this like a maniac. We called the police and we found out we are private roads. Okay, so we could do whatever we want. And if we don't want, 1 minute, if we don't want the camera, we don't have to have the camera. And if we want the camera, we should have the camera. But if we're not having the camera, that's fine. And I don't care who bought it. I'm interested in what Marcia said. What are we going to do? Can we give it back? Can we write it off as a loss? I mean, that's what I'm more concerned about.
Okay, I don't know the answer. We're looking into it, but I will tell you that we have asked the Traffic Safety Committee to prepare a report and all the other recommendations they have, and it is many, that we could do in place of the speed camera. I understand what you're asking, and the board will have to consider what our options are with regard to the camera. But we're not willing to go to court, hire lawyers, and litigate the issue when it is not clear that we would win at all.
Let's move on, please. Thank you.
Let's go. We're going to talk about the merger. It's going to be briefer than any of the other discussions you heard tonight. I promise. So in December, we met, the boards jointly met, we call it the merger team. The merger team met with our attorneys, and we were looking at what we feel were nearly final documents that delineate the terms of the merger. And when we talk about the terms of the merger, it's really a description of what the mechanism is going to be to go from this setup to the next setup, which is a combined board, one board with two more people than this board has now. So we're talking about 9 people, and what the mechanism is going to be to get there. And it's simple stuff, but we don't have to talk about it now. So the documents to do that were nearly finalized. We're going to reconvene with our attorneys to see if they are actually finalized. The next step after that will be to begin a campaign of informing the community how we're going to go about this, what the mechanisms will be, what the finished product will look like, what the subcommittees will be doing, and the community will have very numerous opportunities to educate the community as to what the plans are and what our thinking was in going through it. Subsequently, the community will then vote. Do we want to do this or don't we want to do this? I can tell you this, there's no real dollar value associated with this. This is not about saving dollars. It's not, there's nothing there. This is about trying to achieve a more efficient way of conducting the governance of the community in light of the Frankenstein version of things we have here. Greenbriar, Whittingham, we discovered we have some 64 homes that are orphaned in this process. We want to bring it all under one umbrella so that when you step up to the microphone at a WOA meeting and ask them a question that has to do with Greenbriar and vice versa, it's not an issue. One board will deal with everything. The WOA board has a much greater portfolio of things than the Greenbriar board does. The Greenbriar board will then cede to the WOA board the remainder of the things that they do, in the same way that the Whittingham community ceded to the WOA board the governance of their community. So that's what it'll be like. So there'll be a education process, then a vote on the decision to do it. If it passes, then the two boards will combine. Very briefly, there will be a giant board here, and then there'll be an election. There'll be no incumbents at that election. You know what I'm saying? There'll be no incumbents. Everyone here, whether their term is up or not, will be up for election. Some will choose to run again, some may not. Somebody wants me out. Somebody still wants me an incumbent. There'll be no incumbents. Everybody will stand for election. There'll be 9 slots open. 4 will be, 5 will be reserved. We have it right, 5 and 4? 6 and 3, I'm sorry, 6 and 3. 6 will be reserved for Greenbriar residents. 3 will be reserved for Whittingham residents, and there'll be no at-large residents. If there's no opening in the Whittingham side, you can't run for the position, but there'll always be an opening. We're going to stagger it so that there'll always be somebody running from all sides. So at that point, there'll be no incumbents. Everybody will stand for an election. Whether these people here, myself, run again will be an option. Anybody else can run again will be an option. There'll be a whole new board. Hopefully, presumably, there'll be some people that continue to be on the board from this so that we have the continuity of knowledge and experience, but it isn't essential. And that's what the merger will look like. The time frame we're looking at is late this year. In other words, we normally vote in September for outright. September is when our elections are, right? That's when the full board will stand for an election, assuming that a month or 2 prior to that, the community decides to go with the merger. If the community turns down the merger, then we just continue the way we're continuing. No harm, no foul. But I think it'll be better. There's the mic, Eileen. You gotta go up.
Gotta go up.
We don't-
And I just want to, just before anybody says anything, I just want to say that this has been a long process. It's gone through, you say 15 years, 25. All I know, all I know, it's been something that has been a goal for a long time. We're near that goal, hopefully. I just want to bring out something that Mark mentioned about elections. When he said staggered, the way it's going to be, 3 members will be in a position to vote for 1 year, 2 year, and then 3 year, 3, 3, and 3. So one group of 3 will serve for 1 year. Then the next election will be for 3 years, if their term's up. One group will serve for 2 years. Then at the end of 2 years, then election will be up for 3 years. And then one group will serve for 3 years. So we'll have staggered elections. This way, each term being 3 years. Am I correct, Mark? Isn't that how it works it out?
We'll chart this out so you understand visually what we're talking about. But the initial board, the board where there's no incumbents voting, there will be people slotted in who will only have a 1-year term. There will be people slotted in for a 2-year term, and people slotted in for a 3-year term. So you could get on the board and only have a 1-year term. And after the first 3 years of going through that cycle, then it'll be normal. Every year, somebody will be up, a position will open. In order to make that work, you have to do it that way. It's not a big deal.
I'm going to add one more thing. I'm not sure, Greenbriar, Whittingham. We will require, 67% of the entire community to vote to put this into effect. If you don't vote, it's not going to count. So literally 67% of the 1,600 houses are regular votes that come in each year, like 500, whatever. It will never pass unless 2/3 of 60, which is about, what is 2/3? We have to have, it's a no vote. We have to have the affirmative 66, and that's under our bylaws. So therefore, it's about 1,200 people have to vote for it. If they don't vote for it, it fails.
We're going to need people to educate the community, and we're going to need people to go door to door. The point is, for this sort of a change to our bylaws, the quorum bar is set very high. The quorum bar for a lot of the stuff we do here is fairly low, easy to make the quorum. You know, we've been always pounding on you every time, whether it's the golf election or our election, we need to make quorum, otherwise we got to do this all over again. In order to make this sort of a change, the documents require a very high quorum bar of the 67%. So it's going to behoove us that if we really want to push this through, we're going to have to wake up people who are normally asleep about what goes on around here to make it happen. And if not, it's just one.
So, okay, I just want to tell you that our financial expert has corrected me. It's 1,070 affirmative votes.
Wait, what happened, Eileen? I was just about to turn.
I never claimed to be anything with.
Okay.
I also want to stress the most important thing. It doesn't change. It merges the board, so 1 unit, that's the goal. That's all it is. It's makes life easier as one board, not 2 separate boards, not a lot of complication, so we can all work together.
People call me up at home complaining about the guardhouse, complaining about this thing, the gate's not working, and I have to keep telling them, I have nothing to do with that. I have they don't know it because for most people, they're not focused the way we are about the way this place is structured. It is a Frankenstein's monster. We've put together pieces, and that was done by the developers because we've had multiple developers here. So this is what we ended up with, a stitched together governance. And we're going to try to unstitch it and make it cleaner and convenient for everybody. Somebody's up here. Marcia,
Marcia Forrest, the Reverend Whitehall. So I have a question about why we didn't put this out to the community before we invested God knows how much money on lawyers. It was like we put the horse in the back of the cart. We did it backwards. I personally am totally opposed, and I'm going to make it my life's mission to, as many people who try to encourage to pass this, I'm going to work on not passing it. Question one. Question two, are we not, based on what you said, Karen, we are not going with this rejection ballot, correct? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
to
you.
answer your first question, the original plan for doing this seemed fairly straightforward to us. And we met together and we met with attorneys. We're talking about folks that are not here now at this board. We met with the previous board and we met with our attorneys. And it seemed like we had a very straightforward sort of thing to do that wasn't going to be complicated, wasn't going to be expensive, wasn't going to be time consuming. And it seemed straight and simple to all of us. At some point in time, somebody, and I don't remember who, threw some sort of a monkey wrench into that works and suddenly said, oh no, you can't do it that simple way. You got to do it this super complicated way. And that's when the thing got out of hand. And it's actually Jack Sandler who refocused the issue once, actually, I think it was the new board was in place. Jack Sandler refocused the issue and said, well, why can't we just do it the way we were talking about doing it in the first place? And the attorney said, yeah, we can do it that way. So we got sidetracked, and it did take a lot of time and cost us legal dollars. But at the end of the day, we're now at that point. At some point, Marcia, I'd be anxious to, not now and not today, to find out what your objection is to it, and we should address that. And if you got good, valid objections to it, we should all have an opportunity to hear it and discuss it. I don't want to do it now because we're so late into this.
Okay.
And Jimmy Kimmel is on in like an hour. And so I don't want to miss the Daily Show.
I guess I don't have the right to know how much it cost us in legal fees.
I don't even know.
Why should you know?
Looked
Okay.
into it. Yeah. Yeah. Are we moving on? Okay. I don't know the answer to that. Are we moving on?
You don't want to hear any more discussions, but we've spent the money already and we're so close. So why not go ahead and do it? I'm talking to the choir. When I first came here, I didn't know there were two sections, Whittingham and Greenbriar. They took me to Whittingham, and I was all set to buy there. And lo and behold, I found out about Whittingham, and I saw both, and it's not pertinent now. But if we want to turn this community, we can very easily, because there are a lot of people that want it, and all we have to do is go after it, and we can't be lazy. But it's a very important thing.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go into Greenbriar.
Excuse me.
Oh, I didn't see you there. My neck doesn't work.
I'm sorry your neck
I
doesn't
didn't
work.
see you.
Go back into the brace.
No.
Sandra Cohn on Winthrop Road. I'm here 21 years. This is from the very beginning that I've been here. They wanted to do a merger. They meaning all the other boards and everybody else. And the reasoning was that we were going to save money. Well, we are not going to save $1. So anybody who tells you that, that is not true. As far as having a board with 9 people, very difficult. Much more, right, I have much more faith in the people who live here. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I know Whittingham does this for you and Greenbriar does this for you. I don't know why you think people are not going to get that. I think they could get it.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports. It's my belief that the Budget and Finance Committee is kind of on Greenbriar I'm talking about now. That's what's on the agenda. The Budget and Finance Committees kind of hibernates this time of year. Their big season was prior to the end of last year. They worked on the budget. Sean came in here and did a line by line by line by line. Anybody who had a question about any of those line items, why is it that much? Why is it higher than last year? Why is it positive variance, negative variance? Everybody in the community had a chance to see that budget. But at this point in time, I don't think the Budget and Finance Committee has much activity till later on in the year. Covenants Committee will be meeting, has met to address various issues that have come up before the Covenants Committee. Wayne is not here. He liaises with the Covenants Committee. Site Review Committee, Chester's here. Yeah.
It's very briefly. For the 3-month period, November through January, the Site Review Committee processed 35 applications. We conducted 48 inspections of properties to make sure that the work was completed in accordance with the application. Several of the applications were incomplete, and property management went back and worked their way through that. One application was rejected. And it's gone through ADR. Yep.
You don't live in Greenbriar.
Are you allowed to paint the doors in?
You're allowed to paint the doors, there are specified colors.
Okay,
That's
so
what's
I have
selected.
a couple of houses that have painted their their doors recently, a cobalt blue, another one is a green. Can I give this to you?
Those were painted prior to.
No. This one just moved in and just painted it.
It's the one that you're referring to on Chandler, what we talked about, right, Sandra?
Yes,
Yes, it was an approved color. It was approved by the site review committee.
that's approved.
Yeah, it's an approved color on the color chart, yes.
Well, I understand that, Karen. I do. I didn't know that those were the colors. That's a fabulous color.
I just want to say also, we are thrilled that Michelle is staying. Michelle has a pivotal role in our site review process. And I started in this world of HOA governance. I started in this world of HOA governance as a member of the site review committee, so I'm very familiar with what they do in the process. And the tasks that the committee does now are made so much easier by the prep work that Michelle puts into it. And the big difference is that when I was doing it 7 or 8 years ago, the volume of site review activity is skyrocketed because of the aging out of homes, the changing of the community. So the site review committee has a bigger task ahead that they're involved in, and Michelle greases the skids for that, and it made a world of difference. Next is newcomers. The newcomers committee is spectacular. Joan Hermelin runs it, and Alan runs it for the board. So Alan will jump in here.
Hi, everyone. So the last meeting of the newcomers committee, we met in the fall. I don't remember the exact date. It was later in the fall. We had about 25 new folks who have moved into the community. We don't have anything planned at this point in time. It tends to get a little bit slower until the weather gets a bit nicer. So Joan and I spoke earlier today. Probably in March, maybe April, we'll have another meeting for all the newcomers from that last period in time to the new period in time. Joan Hermelin will continue on as our chair. She's done a great job. And all the members of the committee, most of them have returned back. There's a few new folks as well, have been spectacular. So I'm glad people are joining and welcoming everyone to the community.
So needs to be said, for the number of years that I've been involved here, the newcomers committee was, Greenbriar had theirs, and I assume Whittingham had theirs. I don't know, but Greenbriar had their own. And as of about 2-3 years ago, the members of that committee almost demanded that they wanted it open to both Greenbriar and Whittingham. It was a new way of thinking for us because it just wasn't the norm, and we just said sure. So the the newcomers committee that Alan chairs is both communities all at once. Nobody even knows which community you're coming from. Everybody gets, I don't know, a plant or a bag or whatever, brochures and stuff, without regard for which community they come from. And the newcomers committee is really so much better than it ever was years ago. It's really running smoothly. Okay,
I'm not, wait, I want to ask Alan and the Greenbriar people involved in the newcomers committee to include the two Whittingham elected reps to go to those meetings with the newcomers, because as of now, we don't get to go. So I would like to ask Greenbriar to include us.
yeah, call it done. I'm making an executive decision. Any Whittingham board member that wants to participate in those meetings, absolutely come.
Thank you.
Or designate somebody from Whittingham that you want to represent you. In other words, like Joan Hermely is not on the board. You can do it yourself as a board member or designate somebody from your community, however you want to do it. Yeah, no question.
The last comment that Mr. Shirks made kind of insulted me. 6 years ago, I was chairman of the Covenants Committee of WOA. Okay. We used to average about 3 to 5 cases per month. Okay. As the years went by, we actually had the last year that I was there, I don't think we had a meeting all year. And one of the problems is that when we were being successful with a lot of cases, we relied very heavily on security. Matter of fact, they were giving us stations to take pictures with a camera that was probably invented by Mr. Eastman. And so we had them buy a new camera, and we were getting some nice clear pictures taken at night of wrong type of garbage cans, especially the bags being put out back then. But we relied very heavily on a security for a lot of our violations. And I see cars parked on yellow curbs and nothing gets done. I don't know how many cases you guys get a month, if you do get many cases a month. But if you don't, I would see what the problem is as far as why are we utilizing security to keep track of this, because we you as a committee now can't go running around with a citation book in your hand giving out tickets. So I would look at something like this to be addressed in the future.
Just that, Carmine, the year, I think, after you left, or maybe the year you were there, I was the liaison from the board to the Covenants Committee. I think I attended a single meeting. So the way Covenants Committee works, Covenants Committee represents our alternate dispute resolution, ADR, which is part of all homeowner association governance, is an ADR, alternate dispute resolution. That's what our Covenant Committee does. So what that means is if the homeowners association fines you or punishes you or anything like that, you get to appeal it before an ADR committee, and that's what the Covenants Committee does. After you've appealed to the Covenants Committee, they will make a decision, and if you are unhappy with the decision, you can appeal it to the full board of whichever board is involved. If you're unhappy with the board decision, you could take your case to the legal courts. You could bring it to a legal court and say, I've been wronged by my homeowners association. So that's the process. We don't have a lot of violations. What we find in Covenants Committee more than anything is issues surrounding people who have painted their door the wrong color, or they've been turned down by the site committee for something they wanted to do to their home. They go before the Covenants Committee. They then go before the board if they're not happy. There was a time, Carmine is right, there was a time where we used to get feedback from security where a guy ran a stop sign or did something like that. He'd have pictures and you'd see the guy running the stop sign in the pictures, he would get a fine of $10. He'd appeal the fine, Covenants Committee would meet and adjudicate whatever his issue was. We don't seem to have that happening with our security at this point in time. Even when the security was our own employees, it wasn't really going on. It involves equipment, training, time for security to do those sorts of, hide behind the billboard policing like you would have on a street. And it just isn't being done that way around here. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of hiding behind the billboard violations going on. So Carmine is right. The Covenants Committee has shrunk in scope because security's not ratting out people for doing the stuff they do. If the committee wants them to do that, we talk to Jamie, she talks to the security company. Security company says, okay, we'll start putting people on. It'll cost you X amount of dollars more. Well, we'll hide behind the billboards and take pictures of people, walking their dog and not pick it up after them.
There's a little more to that too. So after Michelle started a few months before me, and then when I came on, we started really going out hardcore doing inspections because a lot of people were just sort of going to the beat of their own drummer, which wasn't fair to their neighbors who want to keep things looking a certain way and be compliant. One of the biggest offenses is leaving the trash shooters out by the front door or not in the right place or, just placing bags at the curb. So security would alert us and we would contact the homeowners. And a lot of people have microbial growth on their house. I know nobody ever knows what that is. I can't say the word mold in a letter, but read between the lines. That's microbial growth. And we issue a lot of letters and we were getting a lot of complaints that people said the letters were threatening. And the letters went something like, hey, we did a routine inspection of the community and observed that you have microbial growth on your home. You have 30 days to contact our office to remedy this. If you don't, based on section XYZ of the governing documents, you can be fined $25 per day until it's resolved. And people, it was very aggressive, they felt. So we talked with both boards and we now have something that we call the friendly letter. We still get yelled at for the friendly letter, but it's friendly. And it again says, hi, you might not know this, but you have microbial growth on your home. If you could please power wash it within the next 10 days, that would be great. If not, and you don't contact our office, you're going to get your first violation letter, which is also deemed a threat. So I think you're seeing a lot less people make it to ADR because we are sending out the friendly letters and they are calling, even if they can't get it done. I mean, when Michelle and I were driving around checking on the snow clearing, and with that white snow, oof, we saw all the mold and it was making Michelle crazy. But we are not going to send out microbial growth letters in the middle of the winter. So people have been doing the right thing, calling and saying, it's too cold, it's end of season, I can't afford it right now. So we give them a little bit of extra time. And I think that's a great thing that, that first friendly letter does get their attention and then they don't have to ask for ADR and go to covenants. If we need to start ticketing people parking on yellow curbs, it's a violation. We can't call it a ticket. But I can ask security to leave a violation on their windshield if they're parking on the yellow curb at night. Honestly, they stopped doing it before I started here, but that's something that we could do again if we felt was necessary. I'll leave that up to the boards.
Thank you. Mark, have you done Mark? Thank you. We're moving over to the Okay, we're moving on to the work committees. I guess, budget and finance.
With regard to the committees, we are working with our controller to set up meetings in this 2024 year. We will be working with our controller. At this point, there is nothing to report. Hopefully, we will attempt to do after each quarter a meeting for just to update budget and finance as to what our financial conditions are.
Sujit, covenants, I don't think is there anything?
Well, my report is going to be very short and sweet. Since you folks have behaved so well, I have nothing to report.
That was great news. Entertainment, Kristen gave a report which encompassed it. And looking forward to having a great year again with a lot of shows, a lot of participation. And we can move on to landscape.
Landscape is my committee. We expect to start meeting as the spring arrives. So sometime in March, I will reach out to those who are on the landscape committee and schedule a meeting so that we can get together. At that point, I expect on a monthly basis until midsummer or so, and we will then wind down. This is my first time heading that committee. So I'm going to need feedback from those that are on the committee also. That's it. Next, on the safety committee, I've already told you what the news is. We had a meeting with the safety committee this morning, traffic safety, not just regular safety. And I explained and I told them how anxious the board is to get a report from them of all the items that they studied so that we can try to come up with other solutions to the speeding that is going on here. Review, that's me too. We are up to date on all our inspections and applications. We'll be having a meeting very shortly, but I'm happy to see that Sandra, who reacted so favorably to the different colored doors in Greenbriar, was not so, anxious for it in Whittingham when she was on the board, but now I can possibly get the board to consider changing some colors in Whittingham on maybe on some of the doors. We'll have to talk about it.
For the Town Center Committee, I would bow to Lolly since she was at the last meeting. Do you want to say anything or? Well, then I will say, since you retired, you've been there for many, many years. And I want to thank you for all the work that you did. I think you did a lot. So thank you. There's a new committee. It's not on the sheet. It's the insurance committee. I just want to talk about it for a moment. It's, based on what's going on in the insurance industry, which we've had presentations, and if you live in Whittingham, I hope you participated and got the information. But it also affects you if you live in Greenbriar because the common elements are under the master policy. So yes, it affects everybody. We put together an insurance committee with a lot of people who have, a couple of them have real good insurance background. And we've been getting a lot of feedback from residents who have taken upon themselves to reach out to agents and given us their names. And we're not ignoring that. We are going to reach out to everyone. We're going to put it out to bid, and we're going to do our best to work to get comprehensive, complete, and the best coverage at the best premium. We're not ignoring it. I just want to let everybody know it's not here. It's a new committee. We're going to be meeting soon, reaching out to these agents and doing what we can to get the insurance problem under control. Thank you. Open forum first. So that's something, wouldn't Jack be the, Mark? When it comes to stormwater, I know that was your baby, right, Paul?
Well, I'm happy to help. Stormwater now falls entirely under the WOA umbrella. And I've discussed with you what I think needs to be done to get it up and running and off the ground. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I think you need to assign 2 or 3 people and pick Jamie's brain about stormwater, and bring the vendors in who are now associated with maintaining the ponds and everything else. And then the next question is, what if anything needs to be done about all the pipes under the earth? Do they need to be jetted? Do they need to be cambered? Those are the kinds of things that I don't have the answers to, but those are the kinds of questions I'd be raising, with Jamie being the starting point for that. But you'll have to get this stormwater business up off the ground. There was a stormwater committee made up of 2 members from Gulf, 2 members from Rolla, 2 members from Greenbriar, and it had been around for a number of years. And it was a flawed design right from the get-go. And realistically, we were fortunate in that the system hadn't aged to the point where the Stormwater Committee was faced with any great crises. Now we have to really start looking at our stormwater infrastructure. And in doing so, we took it out of the hands of the 3 folks that made up the Stormwater Committee and handed it to WOA and said, this is part of the common elements of the community that you should be administering. And WOA embraced that totally. It wasn't like we had to shove it down their throat. They said, yes, we agree. WOA should be doing it. Now, of course, that means money. WOA has to put it in their budget. There's a budget for maintaining that system. There's a budget for reserving for replacement of the pipes that are under our grounds. At this point in time, WOA is 100% responsible for every pipe, even if it's under the earth associated with the Gulf community.
And I just want to say something. And I'm glad you kicked in, Jamie, because I was going to say we're very fortunate with Jamie because she knows the system better than anyone can imagine. She inspects it, takes care of it, knows every aspect of it. So I'm sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
It's okay. I was just going to say that it was discussed that when this happened and I'm going to call it the original, but the previous stormwater committee was disbanded, that WOA would form a stormwater committee. As probably all of you in this room know, there's litigation going on right now between the golf course, WOA, and Greenbriar that's related to it. So you can't have a committee when you can't give a committee a charter. But once that litigation is settled, then WOA can draft something depending on what that litigation outcome is. So yes, they did promise a stormwater committee. It just, some things have to be settled before that can surface.
It's important, and the World Board knows it's important we don't find ourselves in the same position that Rossmore was in 2-3 years ago, where they got flooded. I don't know. I remember that somebody from the Monroe Township put out a request for essentially a GoFundMe, and I sent money to this organization at the Monroe Township, the office, the municipal building, and they pulled funds from all over the township and helped out the the Rossmore folks get out of the jam they were in when they were flooded. We don't want to repeat that here. And so that's why we've changed the structure. And we do have an aging infrastructure underneath the golf course, underneath all our streets. And that's what they'll be addressing. And the ponds and the pumps and all the other parts that are part of it. We're calling it an end-to-end system. From the sewer that you see out in front of your street, all the way to wherever the water ends up at the end of the line, that's their bailiwick.
Okay. You have to come up to the microphone. We're now into open forum. I was just about to say, it's open forum.
I'm Steve Giassi from
Thank you.
Steve Giassi, 3A Chadwick Lane. My comments are regarding the 2024
Everybody in the audience, if you could just settle down so we can hear the mic.
Please keep your comments to within 3 minutes. There are a lot of people that want to speak, and we've already run late. Thank
Can you
you.
hear me now? Okay. Now, Steve Giassi, 3A Chadwick Lane. My comments about the 2024 operating budget. How about now? My comments about the 2024 operating budget that I'm concerned with, and I raised these issues last week at the working group meeting. I have concerns about the capital funding schedules that are in the budget package for Whittingham, that for the next 10 years, there are required $13 million in funding for Whittingham for capital projects. That's $31,000 per household. Unfortunately, in the budget package, there is no documentation as to what the projects are and what the individual costs of the products are. Now, from what I could see, the monthly HOA fees for Whittingham are in large part driven off this funding schedule, which I don't see any support for. If this budget schedule, funding schedule is enacted by 2027, the HOA fees for Whittingham would be $865 a month, which is not sustainable. So obviously, I think we need a new survey. We need to see what the capital requirements are, specifically what projects they are, and the things that need to be done, but the things that are nice to have are going to have to go, because this is not sustainable and it's not affordable for the people of Whittingham. Also, I think we need to have a formal reconciliation between the HOA fees that are paid now by Whittingham and Greenbriar. Right now, I pay $630 a month for my HO fees. Greenbriar pays $350. Now, I understand that we have capital funding requirements of Whittingham in there, and we have the alarm system, what have you. But a lot of my neighbors, they don't know. All they know is I pay $630 a month, and Greenbriar pays $350. That's a $280 spread. That's huge. The board needs to present a formal reconciliation of what the differences in the costs are with each piece pulled out so that people can see what is going on with the monthly HOA fees. Because frankly, if our HOA fees are driven off this funding schedule, I have serious concerns. So I'm hoping there's going to be a new survey done this year, and we'll get to know what all the projects are and what the costs are. Also, I'd like to know exactly when audited financial statements are going to be presented for year ending 2023.
All right, let me address the one question I can address, which is the reconciliation. To your last question, the audited statement for 2023 is months away. It isn't something that happens very quickly. As you know, as a CPA, the firm that does it has a whole pile of them. And it historically has taken months and months, both here and at other HOAs that I'm involved in. So that's that. As far as reconciliation of the HOA fee of the Greenbriar versus Whittingham, they're not reconcilable. They are two distinct entities with two distinct cost structures. Now, they do have common elements. The people who live in Whittingham and the people who live in Greenbriar pay the same dollar amount to WOA for support of the common elements, the building, the swimming pool, and snow removal in the community and the parking lots and all. We all pay that same amount. And that amount includes not only the operating budget of the common elements of the HOA, but also the reserve requirements so that they can put a roof on this building someday or another floor in this building someday. So we all contribute the identical amount for that. We also contribute the identical amount in support of the golf community. Well, Whittingham residents pay the same amount and Greenbriar residents pay the same amount. After that, Whittingham has their own budget components for their operating budget, for what it takes to keep Whittingham functioning, the lawn care, the snow removal, the garbage removal, all that good stuff, and Greenbriar has theirs. There are clearly economies to scale for a lot of what takes place in the Greenbriar side that are not enjoyed by the Whittingham side simply because of the numbers. To try to reconcile and compare those two is almost to say, how do we reconcile it to Rossmore or Concordia or Stonebridge? You can't. They're not the same. And to try to do so is non-functional. Now, these folks will talk to you about the reserve study that they're anticipating.
Thank you, Mark. The capital reserve study, at the moment, we are anticipating a revised study with the new requirements from the updated law that has been legislation that has been put into place for capital reserve studies. As a result, we've requested an update of our capital reserve studies for both Whittingham and for WOA. We expect that those will be available to us within the coming months, 2 or so months down the road. Just to piggyback off what Mark said, yes, absolutely, you really could not do a complete comparison of Greenbriar versus Whittingham homes. For one, Greenbriar covers their own home, their roof,
No, I
their
understand.
siding. That's a significant expense for the Whittingham homes.
I understand that.
Okay, and so again, as Mark indicated, and I'm just confirming, all residents pay the portion that is WOA, and that is for the maintenance of the pool, the grounds, the town center, and so on. Everyone shares those expenses. And then there are golf homes in Whittingham, and everyone in Greenbriar pays the golf fee. And I think that is the only comparison we can make, but there.
No, I understand, but you have to understand that these HOA fees are becoming unaffordable for people. $865 a month is not gonna.
$665.
It's not gonna fly in a couple of years. I can't hear them. Anyway.
I will say, and I've said this many times, I'm treasurer. I came on for the soul. I came on, or I certainly campaigned, and my intention was to come on and help to look at the financials, to understand, because I'm affected. I have 2 homes in the community. I am affected by the increases just like everyone else is, and I think everyone on this board feels the same way. I am trying, I have repeatedly said, I have looked at our numbers. They are absolutely in line with what you would expect for a community of this size. There is very little fat in the budget, if people understand what I mean by that. We're not putting aside money in case. We are really monitoring, working with each vendor, trying to get the best prices possible. I wish I could say that there was a possible way that we can magically lower these numbers. But in order to do that, and I've said this before, we will have to sacrifice services. We are really trying to balance everything for everyone.
I know, I went through the budget line by line. I had no issues in anything. There's no fat in those budgets. It's the capital funding that's the major issue. So that's really,
Hang on to your hat because
that's driving everything.
in light of what happened in Florida with that building collapsing because of a failure on the part of that HOA to budget for capital expenditures and make those capital expenditures, in light of all that, HOAs are under a microscope nationwide now as a result of that. And there are a lot of laws that are being imposed on HOAs as to how much risk they're willing to take or how strident they have to be in terms of their future reserves. So they're going to do a new reserve study, and the new reserve study will be done by engineers who are taking into account whatever laws are being put in place now. And those laws are probably going to squeeze out higher and higher numbers. The reserve study produces a number, and they take that number and prorate it over the number of units in the community that have to pay it. And there's no getting around it. The alternative is assessments. You do it either an assessment or a monthly maintenance. And that's the only two choices.
Well, my wife and I did some poking around on the internet. Now, we're not lawyers, so about this new New Jersey legislation that was passed. The legislation establishing.
If you have any questions, you're gonna have to go off the line and come back. There are other people that are waiting. Just the 3 minutes, please. He's asked the question, we've answered it. Now let's move on to the next person. You can come back onto the line. You can come back onto the line.
I just had one statement to read. The legislation establishes additional requirements for regular inspection, evaluation, maintenance, and certain types of condominiums. The law signed on January 2024 by Murphy is for protecting residents living in mid-size and high-rise buildings. Excluded from this definition are standard wood frame. Forget it.
No, get back in the line.
If you have something to say, we want to hear it. But there is a time limit. When you hit the time limit, you should have respect for other people and let them go on. We let people go on and try and listen. That's all. You can come back.
Whatever legislation has taken place, the engineering firm that will do the reserve study will have filtered that into their study. So whatever requirements are in that legislation, we don't have to absorb it, but the engineers do. And I'm sure they'll have to filter that into the process. And when the reserve study is done, it'll be up on the big screen and you'll get to see all of the individual elements, because the reserve study is a line by line by line. It'll have this floor, it'll have that carpet, it'll have this roof, line by line.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say at the,
Trust, please.
oh, I mean Carpenter 23A Rutland. I just want to say at the budget meeting, I requested of Sean that
we see the capital budget and the items on there, and everybody said it's a great idea. And I'm glad everybody said it's a great idea, but we haven't seen it.
So the last capital reserve study, I can put in your homeowner portals. But what Sean had said is the board is looking to do a completely new study. So you can read it, just know
But
that.
I assume there are things on the budget for this year that are planned to be done.
So here's
Okay.
the thing. A reserve study is a guide. It's not an assurance. So if your gutters on your building say they should be done in 5 years, but they're rusted and falling off, they need to get done this year. But you go to Sandra's house and it says they should be done this year and they look great and we're going to leave them for a few more years. So just because it says in that capital reserve study, this year's the year Eileen Carpenter gets gutters, that does not mean it's going to become a board project. So the real question, it seems like what you want to know is what projects they foresee coming up this year.
What are we going to spend in capital funds? Things get buried in capital.
Right, so that's
Never see it, and that's all I'm asking to see.
Well, so that you can see the capital reserve study. I just want you to understand that's not how the board is going to determine. So, you know, in the condos, we're looking to do another phase of roofing this year. That's the only capital project that the board so far has presented with, you know, for me to look into. That doesn't mean other things won't come up. Of course they may. There's not a lot of paving left to do. There's no road paving to be done in condos. There's some to be done in road if they can afford to fund it. There's not a lot of other capital projects coming up. I can put that reserve study in your portal, but don't take it as gospel because it's not a schedule. It's just a guide.
I would just like to know what kind of capital projects we're funding. I know probably the solar, when we did the solar, that was capital. Okay, I know we're not gonna see a profit for 8 years or whatever, but that
It's
was
7
capital.
years and we need to.
Okay, was this capital or was this regular?
No, that's operating.
That's operating?
And it was a one-time cost.
We didn't
Thank
do
you.
it, but okay. The other thing I just wanted to, I really got up to ask was about the sewer thing. So if the sewer funding, the sewer project was split between the three, the golf, Greenbriar,
Stormwater,
the stormwater.
we can't discuss that now because of the litigation. Why don't we hold that off until it's solved? Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
I was gonna ask
you.
about the finances of, well,
That answer we
you know.
can't give now. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Linda Corazzo, 34 Reeds Lane. So it's funny, Kathy, you just said about the beautification with the garden committee and everything. So our parking lot actually is being turned into, it looks like an industrial park. If you go, if you go into the parking lot right now, there are 10 vehicles. I don't know what kind of trucks you would actually call them, but they have shovels. So there's 10 of those. There's also 2 plumbing trucks. Are we getting paid by these companies and these businesses? Are we getting, because I didn't see it on the budget.
So, Ms. Caruso, the trucks you see with the plows are actually there every year. It's a staging area there to plow the community. No one's renting them. We need them to clear the snow.
So they just plow our community, they don't go anyplace else?
Correct.
Do they pay to be staged here?
No, we pay them to clear the snow.
Really?
Benefit to you.
So how long of a time period how much do we pay them? Was that on the budget? I don't remember.
You,
If you go to Regency and
I
go.
I live here, I live here, so I'm asking a question, so how long do we pay them and how much do we pay them? Okay, stage here.
Ms. Caruso, we don't pay them to stage here. We pay them for snow clearing. So this is something the board votes on at open meetings every 3 to 5 years. Been discussed before, all outlined in the snow bulletins that I send out in the emails.
And what about the plumbing trucks that are there?
We've already discussed this with you at the meeting.
No, you never discussed the plumbing trucks.
But we discussed the long-term parking plan, the planting of trees along the parking lot, and the fee but they are charged to park there. We absolutely have discussed this. We don't remember that. I don't remember having a personal discussion with you about it. It wasn't personal. It was at an open meeting, just like, let me ask you something else. So, and I don't even know what the law is, but we allow boats to be parked out there. So residents can have their boats in the parking lot. Okay, I just want to clarify that. And then the next question is, so when are the gates going to be actually fixed? The gates are a troublesome thing. We do not have the capital to replace all of the gate operators right now, which is what controls it going up and down. So what we've been doing is taking them one at a time. They have to get sent back to the manufacturer in California to get refurbished. So rather than having multiple gates down at a time, we do one at a time. I'm sure it's frustrating as a resident to see it, but it's the least expensive and most effective way. This way you don't have two gate arms in the community. So the gate that's been closed down at Prospect Plains, right? How much longer is that going to be? I don't expect it to be much longer. It's usually several weeks before we get it back from California, and then it will be reinstalled and activated. Because there was a long period of time that there wasn't even any change or anything there. It was just like you could drive through.
Okay.
And that was troublesome. It's supposed to be a gated community that we're paying for.
Right. I would appreciate if, when you get up there, if you ask a question and you get an answer, to please make room for the next person, not to keep asking different questions on different topics. It's not fair to the people that are waiting online. That's all I'm saying.
Marilyn Gerstein, 29 Westboro Lane. I would like to know if the heating system in this building is on a timer. Is it, or is it just based upon the temperature in the room?
It is on a timer and an occupancy setting.
Well,
So
most of the people that are in this building remain until 4 o'clock. But every day before 3 o'clock, or 2:45, we know the time because the building gets cold. Is there any way of adjusting the time so that the building has the stale air exhausted at 4 o'clock when the building was practically empty, and those people that are here do not have to sit with their jackets and coats on?
okay, so when we were discussing a timer, I didn't mean during the day. It's when the building's closed. So it's after 11 p.m. The temperature doesn't need to be as warm overnight because there's no one in the building. It doesn't drop much because it would cost a lot to reheat this whole building the next morning. We can't, this building has to move 100% of the time. That is code for this type of public space. So there are many people who tell me, oh, I like to play cards at this table. I don't make a draft. I like to play over there because it's too hot. All day, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, I'm too hot, I'm too cold. It's a very difficult balancing act. You also have to keep in mind the outside weather. So we went from a week in the 20s where the heat was really pumping in this building. Today it was in the 50s. So the system doesn't know what to do when the temperature changes that quickly. So there are going to be some times that some people do have to sit with a light sweater or a jacket, but the timer doesn't change during the day. That's not something that happens. It's set for the day. So when we came in this room today, it was set at 74. It's a huge room. Doors are opening and closing. So it's going to get a little cooler because people are coming in and out of the room. We do the best we can. It's not perfect. It's not your living room, so it's never going to be to your specific satisfaction. We go through the same battle in the management office. Half of us are cold and half of us are hot, so we just do our best. But no, there's no timer that turns it off during the day at all.
Is there any way to alleviate the situation so that people who are seated here do not have to wear clothing that should be worn in the Antarctic?
We set the temperature to 74. There are a few times that it has gone up to 75 or 76, but you cannot heat or cool the air more than 20 degrees difference than outside without a lot of hardworking equipment. So you're never, when it's bitter cold outside and you're in a big room like this, it's never going to be ideal. So unfortunately, I always tell everyone to light layer when they come in the building so that if they need to, they can layer, and if they're warm, they can take some coats off.
At this time, will you accept a question about the burn?
Appreciate if you have another question to let somebody else go. I just explained that, please.
Good evening. Joe Ecanazio at 21 Wellington Place, okay? A few years ago, the residents of Greenbriar, Concordia, and the Pines received a letter about a franchisee putting a McDonald's in Concordia Shopping Center. I want to give you an update on what's going on with that, okay? We all went through a meeting, the zoning board meeting when that first came out. There was 150 people there. There was the various communities around there. Everyone was against it. The franchisee knew it. For those of you who know what it's going to be, it's a 4,000 square foot building in the middle of the parking lot between the banks and the entrance to Stop and Shop with a drive-through, meaning 3 drive-throughs go between 2 entrances and exits, okay? Basically, people were fuming about it, and the franchisee knew it at the meeting. They tried to prolong the meeting. The chairman, Feda, stopped it. He said, when you guys are ready to present, come back. Well, they never came back, okay? The meetings were canceled and canceled and canceled. Subsequently, they came back and the zoning board turned and said it was dismissed without prejudice. A lot of people don't know what that meant. What it means is they can come back at any time. Okay? So now what they've done, they delayed it. The zoning board was canceled. The franchisee requested a professional review, which means they brought in some engineers, they looked at their variances and they said, okay, what can we do to make this go through? Okay. And they got that, not from us, outside. Okay. So now it turns out that the franchisee solicited adult communities to garner support. Us, Concordia, the Palms, and Encore. We were the only ones that granted them a meeting. And if any of you people were there, they got slammed. Okay. So they went back again, they started soliciting other people. They got the professional review, and now from my people are telling me it's back in. They're going to do this. Now, folks, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-business. I'm not anti-McDonald's. I am anti-location. That is a stupid, dangerous place to put something like that. There are parking issues. We're going to take away 80 parking spaces. They're going to put, we're going to put 25 back. Where? Along the road. I said to them, how? Most into Bronx Road? Oh, yeah. You only have 12 feet from the beginning of the berm to the sidewalk. Where are you getting the 8 feet from? Taking the sidewalk? Oh, no. They're going to take 25 other parking spaces away. I was there at night, not last night. Okay? So here's where we are right now, folks. And I need your support on this. And I'm speaking for the residents of the rest of the communities around here. Okay? This cannot be. This is dangerous. Okay, we have safety issues with the kids causing those big intersections to come to McDonald's. Okay, they put it back on the agenda, but they didn't put it on for Tuesday night. Okay, so we have to be careful. They're trying to put this thing on the radar. The zoning board, from what I understand, is really not too happy with them. So I need, and we need us to be aware of what's going on. Look at the Monroe Township website. Scroll down, zoning planning. There's the agendas there. I actually went to the council because I didn't have a zoning board meeting, because the word in town was the franchisee said, we don't care what the zoning board says. This is a done deal. The franchisee made a statement. I went to council because I couldn't go to zoning. And I confronted council and I told them my whole story, which I told you right here tonight. And I said, the franchisee said that this is a done deal. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the council, don't waste our time. is this a done deal? Yes or no? And the attorney said to me straight out, no, and it's on tape and it's on camera. Okay, so now it's got to go to zoning again. My suspicion is it's going to be February 27th. So please, folks, save the date. We can't let this happen. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Arkady Golinov, 79 C. Winthrop. I'm on the Williamstown side. So, can you hear me? No, okay. So I was really happy to hear that new commission created for our insurance. I'm gonna just touch some insurance issue because I did a little research and I'm gonna share with you. Because whatever insurance we have right now, it's very bad, I believe. And we pay almost $1 million in premium with 100,000 deductible. So it's insurance company just not going to do nothing whole year because 100,000 claim doesn't happen every year. I believe it happens once in 5 years. So it's a very good deal for insurance company. And what I believe we need to reach all insurance companies that willing to take risk to insure HOA. I call one of the agent and explain situation and they take care of it. And I said to Mr. Rosen, Mr. Rosen said, okay, we're going to reach them. So everybody can do whatever I did, and I believe that board supposed to ask homeowners here because only the big increase in our maintenance this year, $60 per person. It's mostly because of that insurance problem. So we need to find as many agents as possible. Okay, I can call not agency, but I ask everybody because I remember last meeting somebody said he has some connections with insurance company. I don't have connection. I just called it. You know, called, but people want to around this. So we need to reach as many as possible. And that's why I believe everyone is supposed to work on it. Not just Mr. Rosen, just one person handle this $1 million expense.
So I got your email today. Yeah, and I responded. Did you get my response?
Yeah,
So hold on. When you get an agent and you don't give them the entire story, which is the fact that we had tremendous amount of insurance claims. Not only did we have the fire here in the clubhouse, we had a fire in one of the units in the condo. We had numerous pipe breaks, water damages. We have slip and falls. We have other things. These are going to what I'll call our loss runs. Our loss runs were terrible. And I agree that we got to keep doing. I even told you that I will be more than happy to call your agent. Other residents have given me the name of other agents. I've reached out to agents that I know because I'm in the insurance industry that handle distressed properties and are able to get them insured. We also went to about 20, Jamie, you have the list, I think about 15 insurers, including major insurers. I don't know if you know the difference between foreign, allied, domestic insurance companies. We went to domestic, foreign, and alien, I meant, not allied, alien insurers, meaning insurers that are out of the country. So we went all over to try and get the business placed. And you know what? They all turned us down. Every one of them. Okay. So we were turned down repeatedly. Only one insurance company would agree to insure us. Unfortunately, they set a requirement in order to come in and insure us. We're hoping that with this, over the next year or so, that will have less claims because we won't hit the 100,000 because most of these claims are in the $20,000 to $40,000 range, which are called nuisance claims, meaning they're nuisance claims. The insurance companies, they pay them, but they take a lot of paperwork. So we're hoping when this levels off and we don't have that problem and we keep going out to the markets, that will be insurable again. We'll also have the other problem that the community is aging, the buildings are aging. We have to maintain them. As they get older, insurance companies don't want to insure you. They want to charge you more money. So I know you're concerned and I agree with you. I am all for contacting every agent that thinks they can write this business. I am all for every insurance company that wants to walk in the door and take out coverage, but I am not going to go with a company that I know is not going to give us the proper satisfaction when we have a claim. Sometimes you buy a policy and pay a cheap premium, and the service you get from your company is really poor service because they don't want to pay you properly. So we got to weigh everything. But I do agree with you. We need to keep going after it.
I understand problem with contra insurance. That's why I'm not asking a question. I just say whatever my research here. And I'm going to say that we need to reach each company in the United States.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And for that, we need another agent. So we need to ask people to help to find agency with us.
You got to understand that most agents write with the same companies. You got to understand that. If they're an agent, we're not captive to one insurance company. They write with numerous insurance companies. So I know an agent that specializes, as I said, in distressed property coverage. He couldn't get us insurance, even with the markets he writes with. They all turned us down. So I went over this many times, but we are not putting it on the side. We're actively working. That's why we have an insurance committee in order to do that.
Okay.
We still have some people, a couple more.
You know, I haven't finished because.
Thank you. Next person, please.
No,
Thank you.
I apologize. I will say nothing. I will say 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'm going to finish it because I want to see you talk. Mr. Rosalie, you said you will answer this new agent. They asked for restaurant, just whatever you said. We need to provide claims to them and parent insurance. So second, each agency you call, you have different answer.
I understand what you're saying, but we've gone through this. An agent that tells you I can write this coverage, but he doesn't know the facts, then we'll give him the facts, and if he can write the coverage, we'll do business with them. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Yeah,
okay.
You need to give them whatever they want. Second,
thank you. Next person, please. Let's go. That's it.
We have to keep going.
So, for a second,
your time's up. Your time's up.
We've gone over this.
The time is up, sir.
I want to say something about the insurance, but I call State Farm. They provide me insurance.
Connie, please, if you need to discuss further, please get in the back of the line.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Marilyn Kirstner. I know. Damn, okay. I'm from 56 Westminster Way Drive, whatever. So I have 3 simple little questions. Don't yell at me. I will. Come on, they all took my spot. Give me a break. Okay. Number 1, when you said something about the internet and you get the voting in, what about those nice little people who don't use the internet and they want to vote on
They can still get a hard copy.
Is that an easy question? Cool. Okay. Number 2, I really want an honest answer from everybody. Ready? How many of you have not been to B Bistro? Yeah.
I understand. That's what I want to know, because I want to know if those who complain have never been there. Okay,
Very few hands.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. They're nice people. It's a nice setup. The only thing I would like is maybe more hours. That's about it, because I don't like to cook. That's it. Number two. This guy.
Number three.
Okay, number three is, can we ever get one of them doohickey deals where you where instead of getting online 6:30 in the morning, we do it on the computer like everybody else is doing?
We have talked about it. It's something that the entertainment committee will discuss.
That's it?
We just brought it up at the last meeting, not last week, but the previous joint meeting. So the newly seated entertainment committee will talk about it.
And then we're still not gonna get stop signs on either corner by the entrance.
That's four. You said three.
All right, I lied. Yes,
The traffic safety committee is also still discussing stop
yeah, because
signs.
I think that would help a lot because nobody looks, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna read these Zoom things really fast.
Oh,
Okay.
Can I just say one more, shush, one more thing. I got to meet someone I went to high school with like 57,000 years ago. And that's her.
Okay, so this is from Irene McNulty. Irene McNulty says, I respectfully suggest the board consider putting a digital timer and placing it for all to view so that the 3-minute time limit per speaker will be adhered to. Thank you. The second is Diane Vernicus. She and some other people had asked for a heavy bag for the gym and the board declined at the last meeting. And she just wanted you to give her a reason for declining.
And we declined it at the last meeting, but we had a discussion about it today and we're getting more information, so it's still an open item, just to let you know.
That's it from Zoom.
Now, Gerstein, 29 West Borough Lane. My question regarding the berm. Going forward, will the design of the berm on Half Acre Road be the same as the beginning, which was Prospect Plains and Half Acre Road? Are you considering doing the same thing going forward as you have presently done?
Explain why the pine trees had to go. We had to remove the pine trees. Jamie understands why way better than I do.
So the answer to your question is yes and no. Every area where the berm is being enhanced is going to be different because it has different plants there right now. The area that was just done was 95% white pines. They are notoriously not planted for coverage anymore. The acidity in the needles allows nothing else to grow. And once you lose those bottom limbs, you've lost your coverage. So nothing can be planted under them and they had to come down. They did keep the 4 shade trees that were there. In looking down, further down, if you continue down that same path, the board did discuss, I'm not making any promises. The conversation is the lower junipers on the bottom, potentially keeping some of them for low coverage early on. The problem is that when you cut something that's 30 years old, that's so large in half, sometimes it goes into shock and it dies. But there are not as many white pine trees as we move down. There are other versions of evergreens, so it won't be as drastic, but the white pines, they do have to come out.
Could you project an estimate of how much the rest of this change to the berm will cost?
It's between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. It depends on the area of the berm and what's needed. This was an expensive year, but if you go back on Prineville Road and you see the row of beautiful oak trees that are there and some junipers that the board just planted a few years ago, I don't anticipate it will be nearly as much. So it's an average.
So it's an average of about $60,000 for how many years?
It's a 3 to 4 year phase project.
Are there any other very expensive projects that you see in the near future, something like the outdoor swimming pool?
That's the board's. She wants to know if you plan on redoing the pool this year.
Well, in the near future,
There's no other large projects planned, right? No.
I did not get an answer.
Right now, as far as we know, there's nothing planned, no.
All right, thank you very much.
No? I was said I can speak after, okay? I just want to share my experience and again, 79C intro Percadi. I call State Farm Insurance, and State Farm Insurance provided me quote for condo because I need to increase my, insurance to 100,000. Also, I asked, can you give me insurance as a homeowner? And they provided me this insurance. I said, which one I can use? They talk to your insurance association. Is it for me? I would better have full insurance and don't worry about the deductible, and it's much better. So, especially if we need to look at it, it's possible.
Hold on. If you're talking about your own personal insurance, then whoever you decide to insure with, that is your decision. We're not involved in who you want to do that with. Our goal, our only concern is the master policy. We're not involved in each individual homeowner unit. That's your personal decision. We have no control. You just are required to carry insurance.
Mr. Rosen, I don't ask question. I just say my opinion, and I would say if all colders switch to this insurance, we can decrease our maintenance part that we pay for cold insurance.
I've already went over that, and I told you the problem we have is that we had a huge loss run.
I know. I'm talking about insurance companies. We're not talking about condo insurance portion. We need to insure common property. And my note is here, when you do common insurance, they normally don't.
What it comes down to is the last insurer with less money on us, because the premium that we were charged was 1/3, less than 1/3 of the claims they paid out. So if they're charging us a premium of $500,000 and they're paying out $2 million in claims, why would they want to continue insuring you? That's what happened. And I understand your concern, because I'm concerned, but they're in business to make money, not lose money. And unfortunately, we became to them, we were a loser. When other insurance companies looked at our loss runs and looked at the records, they turned around and said, the only way we're going to insure you is charge you astronomical premiums. So we ran into a problem. So what I keep saying to you is, and I understand it, and I don't know how many times I can repeat it, we didn't just say, okay, it's done. We continue to market it. We continue to look for it. We continue to hope we will find another carrier that will take us on board and work with us. But I can't give you the answer today, but all I can tell you is we're continuing to do it.
Ask a question. I just give you an observation. And
I understand, but you're repeating it over and over again.
Can I say something simple? One observation. Homeowner insurance, okay, don't have loss assessment normally. So all Greenbriar,
beat this to death, don't you? You really just want to beat this slowly.
You don't listen.
You listen to it. We
because you need to check.
We checked. I was on an insurance committee here with Steve Chasen, who's an insurance executive. We've been doing it. Open the newspaper and read about insurance companies and homeowners associations. Google homeowners association and insurance companies, and you'll see the problem very clearly. You're not gonna get any better answer here today. It's not gonna happen. You're beating us to death. Please, let the next person speak. Oh, I see it's Mark. We're out of time. Thanks, Mark. Mark Lindell, 50.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. As far as the difference between Greenbriar and as far as the difference between Greenbriar and the condominiums, the Greenbriar units are fee simple. We pay, and everything is on the association. My real question is about reserves. I did a back of the envelope. Well, we finally got the financial statements for September 30th, unaudited, of course, for Greenbriar and Rolla on the portal, right in the middle of the budget presentations. And on the back of the envelope, at that point in time, the reserves on Greenbriar were $1,041,000, $818 for replacement reserves and discretionary reserves of $223. Is that sufficient to do the berms, which are on the half-acre side of the community?
The berms are not capital.
They're not capital, so that's coming out.
No landscape can be capital.
Okay. And I think probably those reserves on Greenbriar are probably adequate because there's very few streets left to be paved, which is the major item to be done with the replacement reserves on Greenbriar. Exactly. There's very few streets left to be paved. And the reserves are largely for the next cycle. Which is 10-15. We are ramping up the reserves for the next cycle that those streets have to be paved. All right, let's get to the Rolla reserves. The total reserves on Rolla at that point in time was $1,285,000, of which $616,000 was snow reserves, which Sean explained at the budget meeting. There's something in there called Comcast reserves. What the hell is that?
There's an agreement with Comcast that in previous years was lovely and substantial, and you got a good amount of money because they are the only wired cable company in your community. So Fios won't come in. We've tried for everyone who's going to tell me to call Fios next. So Comcast would give a small amount of money per household in this community that uses Comcast. And that money is used discretionary. And we used to call it Comcast project money, like a project that we really couldn't afford, something out on the patio, but there was that money there from Comcast. So right now, really, Sean's just holding on to it so that if you need it for a project, he can draw from it if something comes up.
Then why don't they just reclassify it into discretionary reserves?
I think that you would need a vote. We would have to look at when that originated, it was voted on, so I would have to look at the verbiage. I can definitely ask Sean.
Just to avoid confusion, that should be part of discretionary reserves. If Comcast is not getting that money, well, put in discretionary reserves.
Yeah, I mean, Comcast doesn't get any money back. What they give us is much, much, much less than what we used to receive. It's just, it used to be used for more like improvement type projects, but at this point, we're in maintenance mode, so.
Okay, and being that the reserves are $1,285,000, there's about, let's see, $650,000. That's either discretionary or replacement reserves. Is that enough in the future to do the swimming pool as people have thought about? Are we going to get a special assessment in the future? Because there's no way you're going to accumulate enough reserves to do a major project like that.
So I can answer if you want, Kathy. So basically what the Rolla board has discussed a few different options. So they got an estimate last year, they being the previous board, for what the pool project would cost, somewhere around 1.5 million. And then we look at the tennis and pickleball courts and we're looking at, 350,000 per, some round numbers here. So what do? How do you come up with that much money? People use these things. They use the pool, they use the courts. No one is going to ignore that they're not being maintained. And it's your fiduciary obligation on the board to fix them and make them all safe and playable. So really, it comes down to the options of the community. Does the community want their fees to go up incrementally for 5 years and wait 5 years for that pool in those courts? Or does the community want a special assessment over a 1 or 2 year period and get those things right away? So it's something the board has been talking about. Nothing has been decided yet, but you're going to pay one way or another. It's just, do you pay over a short amount of time or a longer amount of time?
Or how
I
long can we
can-
wait to do it before the pool is unusable?
It's definitely not unusable. The important thing to know about the outdoor pool, the Olympic-sized pool that you have, is even when you do a total renovation out there, that shell of that pool is not going to be torn up. That's not the issue. So
Piping.
it's the surroundings that really are an issue, and there's a lot of outdated items out there, and there's way too much concrete, but don't feel that the pool itself won't be unusable. That we'll never let it get to that point. We do repairs for leaks and things all the time. Every year we do maintenance. The main concern is the concrete, making sure it's level and safe for everyone to walk on. And of course, you want it to look pretty. So there's options that the board has before them that will be eventually given to the community to say, hey, you want it now or you want it in 5 years? Because fees going up are hurting, we're hearing it. They're hurting people. So some people might say, I don't want a special assessment. I'd rather pay slowly over the next 5 years. So the board will speak more to it.
Thank you.
Motion, we close the meeting. A second? Wait, that was my job, Mark.
Go, close your meeting, we closed out.
Okay.
Adjourned.
Motion closed. Everything done? Thank you. By the way, I really appreciate it.